This is the Levels Network. I am Justin Horo, joined by the OG, just recently retired, Juju. Thanks for joining us again on Levels Network, brother.
It's a pleasure. Good to be back, Oz. Thanks for the invite.
Big triple OG, Willie Mason. He is currently, right now, he would be under the alias of Terry Torres. He is acting for a series in Stan. I made you aware of that downstairs. Yeah. He's just got his fingers in everything at the moment, Triple OG.
He's just manifesting, isn't he? What's his role in this show? Can you explain to me, or is it a secret?
Basically, yeah. He announced it a couple of weeks ago or last week. He's basically been himself. Boy from Newey, bit of a standover man, or maybe more comparable to some of his relatives, specifically the big bro. Big bro. So yeah, so he's pumped, mate. We got the call last night, and we called you last night, and you answered the call. So thank you, brother.
Nah, thanks for having me. I love being on last time.
We're ready to get into it, mate. There was some news. I sort of had put the show together, and then the Hall of Fame broke last night after I'd already sort of done all of my notes. So let's get into it, mate. I want to congratulate the Hall of Fame inductees. I've got my thought process or my critiquing around. I think, we could probably have more clarity of like how this is done, when it is done, and all that sort of stuff around it. But let's congratulate everyone that's been inducted. Some big names. Lionel Morgan, I believe he was the first Indigenous player to play for Australia. Les Boyd, it's been very controversial. Les Boyd, Daryl Broman isn't happy about that. He broke Daryl Broman's jaw.
He did too.
And spent some time on the sideline. He's already come out and blown up about that. I heard that on the radio this morning.
No way, has he?
Yeah, he has. Benny Elias, one of your old man's teammates during that really strong period that Balmain had.
Great Benny.
Steve Renouf, the Pearl. I'm surprised Steve Renouf he has been inducted now with, I'm looking at some of the other guys that have played after or during his era that are just above him that we'll get to in a bit. In my opinion, the GOAT, Cameron Smith, and he is almost a lock for immortal status, in my opinion, which we'll get to in a little bit. Some other names that are right near him, Jonathan Thurston, Billy Slater and Cooper Cronk, all teammates of his either at Melbourne or Queensland, which you unfortunately had to go toe-to-toe with back in the day. Another one of those was GI, actually. He's in there as well. And we've got a Kiwi. Benji's repping the Kiwis for us. And Sammy Burgess is repping the Poms.
That's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, great lineup. Congratulations to all those players. You just look at the lineup through the whole Hall of Fame. It's been all the players have been inducted over the history now. Do you want
me to rattle off a few names?
Yeah, rattle a few off just to bring back all the great memories.
Yeah, give you some context. And these were guys that me and you would have grown up watching in our prime. Danny Badiris, Stacey Jones, Ruben Wiki. Craig Young was before our era a little bit more, but Big Petro Sivanasiva, The Beaver, Steve Menzies, Gordon Tallis, Ricky Stewart, Cliffy Lyons, Mark Graham. He's our proper OG for New Zealand. He would have gone toe-to-toe with your old man back in the day in the lock forward position for the Kiwis. Darren Lockyer, Shane Webke, and then the eighth, and Freddie. Basically. Brad Clyde, Laurie Daly, Glenn Lazo, like all these guys. Flowing into the 90s, Steve Walters, Andrew Eddinghausen, Alan Langer, Blocker Roach with his the Blocker Chiefs with his young fella yesterday. Got a big block. Speaking of roaches,
that
was a little mini roach.
How ironic!
That's so weird. Is that weird? That was a little mini roach that just walked. The first time it's ever happened in this studio too. Gene Miles,
the roach just crawls across the table.
That gives me like tingles and shit. Oh yeah, let's keep going. Brett Kenny, Terry Lamb, and your old man, Wayne Pearce, cutting it off with Guru Senior. So, and then it obviously flows into the 80s with King, Stello, and so on and so on. So what a list, mate. What a huge list. And your old man's on there and a lot of people that he went to head-to-head with in some really big games we would have grown up watching.
Yeah, unbelievable. And then the new inductees, obviously, the big three there from Melbourne and Queensland, Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater, and obviously the great Thurston. They were no-brainers, were they? They're obviously going to be in the immortal chat too. Well, I'd say Smithy and Thurston, definitely.
Yep. I agree on that.
Coops and Billy close behind with their
resumes.
Amount of premierships they've won. Yep. Congratulations to Benji too. Obviously, Kiwi International and Benji's Benji. He obviously had that a great career.
The breakout, the World Cup that we finally won in 2008.
2008.
A huge part of that.
Yeah. So, and Sammy Burgess, another expat, one of the best front rows I've ever played.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Absolute leader. So, yeah, congratulations to all those players. And, yeah, I'm just glad I'm retired and I don't have to play against them anymore.
Mate, you were like...
They were good, them.
you were in the trenches, like proper trenches. I was lucky enough to play against a lot of the guys here as well. But with regards to, like, these players defining matches like you had to for either the Roosters or New South Wales, like you were going against these guys proper during and like I know we always bring it up when you're in here, but like look what you had to deal with like for that Queensland team. Smith, Thurston, Slater, Cronk, Inglis, all of those guys. There's not one of those guys that people could hold an argument, should they be in there? They're like first ballot Hall of Famers and that's what you were going against during your time. So it just shows how strong that Queensland team and what that era has done for all of these guys as well.
Yeah, well, they changed the game, didn't they? All those guys, and that's why they get these rewards, these achievements, getting put into the greatest ever conversations because they were the greatest in the big games. They're premiership winners, time and time again. Origin, Australia, they just kept delivering, and all those players from the 80s to now that are in those sides are getting these awards. It's a reward for their ability to step up in big moments, to own the big moments, own the big games.
And consistently too.
And consistently,
do it for a long period. I think that's a big part of it as well. Yeah. No, I think there have been moments in which players or good players have had really good couple of years and been part of good teams, but to translate, if you go from Thurston, with his Bulldogs to going to North Queensland and having success, Cooper from having success at Melbourne and then going to the Roosters and having success. Yep. GI had success at Melbourne and went to, they all continued success wherever they went.
Yeah, just out and out legends, aren't they? And GI's a big one too, wasn't he? How good was he?
GI's
he was so good.
For me, because he's guaranteed here, right? And then let's go on to the next conversation, right? Because apparently the Immortal was going to be announced next week. It's been rumoured. Have we? In our opinion, do you think we've addressed everyone sort of pre-NRL era, or do you think we start discussing either the most obvious one on this list for me is Cameron, and then before that, for me, in my opinion, is probably Darren Lockyer.
So our last one was Joey.
Yep. No, sorry. I'll get them up for you, mate, because I've got them in here as well. So we have, I think Mel was the latest because Joey was inducted before him.
Because Joey went pretty much straight in, didn't he?
Pretty much. So Clive Churchill, John Raper, I think they did maybe 4 or 5 in one go.
Yeah.
Then they had like a 20-year break. We've discussed this again. Apologies if we've got it wrong, but in my opinion, this is why I think it needs some working on. Like I think we need a better structure around it. We need to...
What would you do? Would you have it like a 10, 20-year window?
Well, if I was to do it now, my communication would be to everyone that was pre-NRL era.
Yeah.
We've put together a certain amount of names. We want to draw maybe 1 or 2. Because you can't have... if we're talking immortality and the way that you view it, I think they've got to be the best of the best. Not only their position, their era, their dominating, all that sort of stuff. And all these guys are, a lot of these guys are before my time. So I can really only comment on the guys that I know or probably seen highlights of, more so Wally Lewis, Artie Beetson, Andrew Johns and Mel Meninga. When I start thinking about the way that I view those guys, even though I didn't watch a lot of their core stuff, I understand their importance in their game and the presence and what they put on the field. And for me, they're a lock. So I think if there is going to be some discussion NRL era, basically, so 1999 or 2000 onwards, then we address it. And then it's done, and then we then have that discussion because everyone, I think we can both agree that Cameron Smith is a lock.
Has to be.
It's just whether he goes in now or later. So
there was talk about Ron Coote, wasn't there?
Well, Ron Coote's the big one that people talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And then the other one's probably Brett Kenny. There's a lot of chat around Brett Kenny, Peter Sterling, that era with the dominant.
Sterlo always gets thrown around, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, Cameron Smith for us, I'd say we both agree, and anyone playing in the modern era, we all see Cameron Smith as the greatest ever. I've always said, from my time watching footy, Andrew Johns, Joey's obviously in there. I love Joey, and he was my greatest player ever. But then playing against Cameron Smith, I'd say Thurston's not far behind as well. He was obviously one of the best I've ever played against. I'd say he'd find himself in there at one point of just his pure ability and what he did in the game. But from my opinion, Cameron Smith's going to be there, whether it's this one or it's in the next phase. But from all reports, from talking with older people, ex-Roosters players and around Ron Coote, they talk about his leadership and what his statistics were and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if Ron Coote's the next one either.
And you know, like I said, he was before my time, so I obviously know how strong the name is. Pardon me. But yeah, I'd be relying upon. His
name gets used a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ronnie Coote.
It's the OG. He is the OG. I think that's probably how we first heard of Ronnie when we were younger. But yeah, I'm going to have to take the opinions and put trust in people that have gone before us for those sorts of decisions. But in saying that, I would like to know, you know, what the criteria is going to be moving forward. Are we then going to start addressing people who deserve it post into the NRL era, and then maybe that's enough for going back? Like, that would be my biggest takeaway from it. But because I think Cameron's going to be in there for sure. If we just go back, I'm just going to quickly go back to the Hall of Famers. With the Hall of Famers, I think most people, even if they're not the biggest Melbourne Storm, Cameron Smith fans, can agree he's going to be an immortal. The arguments, I think, the biggest arguments I think are going to be centered around JT and Cooper Cronk. And
which one?
In my opinion, like whether they're like the validity of both of those guys, the eye test, and just say if you did a poll with, I'd say 1,000 ex or current NRL players, I would say JT would poll over Cooper. I would say there'd probably be about a 70-30 split, JT. But then when you put Cooper's resume next to JT's, then, you know, like with what he did at both Melbourne and then at the end of the Roosters, that's really going to put him in the conversation. And I was thinking about this as well, like I think they're going to cancel each other out. And what I mean by that is when you think of Cam, Danny Badiris is obviously a great player. You know, Steve Walters was a really good nine when I was growing up. Those are the two guys that I think of from their era. But when I think of Joey and when I think of Cameron Smith, I feel like those guys changed the position, and there was no debate on who the best was during that time that they were in the game. For the most part, like for like 80% of their career. Like you're probably not going to make Cameron Smith out and out the best hooker in the game when he first started, like 2 or 3 years. Like Danny Badiris was killing it, playing for Australia, all that during that period. But when he established himself, he didn't really let it go. And then I'd say that'd be the argument for Joey as well during the period that he was strong as well. With Cooper and Thurston, I think them going back and forth against each other, you know, whether the style or the accomplishments, you could have an argument for either.
It was the trophies, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, well, you look at American sport, NFL especially, players are regarded or held in higher esteem off the rings that they win, aren't they? You know, Tom Brady's won this amount of Super Bowls, this amount of awards. If you were going off that purely, it's Cooper Cronk. You can also have an argument he played in more consistent teams with obviously Cam Smith and Billy Slater around him. But what did he win, Coops? He obviously got a few taken off him, but he won about 6 or 7 comps.
Yeah, they'd be up there. It felt like he won 4 or 5 at least with Melbourne, and then 2 with obviously the Roosters.
And then the 2 that were taken off.
It's the Roosters' resume that's helping him more than anything, in my
it's undeniable.
Yeah.
You know, like to go back to back. I think it was the first time since the Broncos when Coops got when the club got the back to back, and he was obviously the ringleader there. So
and it was more that he left Melbourne. I think that's what.
And he had to win too.
Yeah,
like he left Melbourne, Coops went to the Roosters. I can obviously speak about it because I got moved on. We'd fallen short in a couple of major semis since we won the comp, and he just out and out delivered. It just stamped his authority as probably one of the greatest winners of all time. We spoke about one of the best players, but one of the just out and out greatest winners to get the job done.
To also beat Melbourne.
Yeah,
like
it's pretty crazy.
Huge.
Reflecting on it's even pretty more impressive. It's probably good coming from me as well because I'd been there and left. But yeah, to get a job done under that amount of pressure when you have to sort of win, like it was like club. You had to win. And he got it done and by all reports, he was the architect of all of it and the culture change. So, but then again, Thurston, whenever you start to say,
he's my guy.
Go towards Coops, and then, if I was going to pick a clutch player that just dismantled the defence in all areas at every level and being on the end of it, we've both been on the end of it at club level, rep footy. Thurston, with just his instincts, he's just natural footy. I don't think there was any better than him.
Yeah.
The goal kicking too was the big one, wasn't it?
True. Like if you think, we're about to talk about goal kicking a little bit later on with King Gutho from our YouTube comments, but both Cameron and Jonathan Thurston were really good clutch goal kickers, and turning 4 into 6 is that wins you games.
Big time. Especially in those Queensland games, you can just the amount of kicks that he just knocked over from the sideline, him or Smithy, and obviously the famous field goal. Yeah, look,
Coops had a good one too.
He did too. Yeah, he wouldn't miss some Coops.
Yeah,
that's a good argument as well. Talking about just clutch players, the greatest clutch player.
Moments.
It'd be hard to split both of them as well.
Yeah,
Coops would kick them from anywhere and consistently probably be that go-to man. Would have been an interesting argument sitting with the 3 or 4 of them, Slater, Smith, Cooper and Thurston, and ask them who was their go-to for the field goals.
Yeah.
Because you would have had Thurston there and Cooper, who both would have backed themselves in those big moments. I'd love to know who was the shot caller in those moments. I'd say Cooper. There's a few that he nailed.
Yeah.
Thurston would obviously put his hand up time and time again, but for memory, Coops was the one who nailed a lot of them. So that's another good argument. Who was the best clutch player out of all them? Be hard to split them.
And because I reckon if Cam didn't play 9 as well, I reckon he would kick him as good as anyone, like as good as those other two as well. If
didn't
required.
he hit one? Was it against Manly?
Yeah, he hit one against us.
Half?
He hit one against us in fuck. That's right.
I remember it at Brooksy.
So
we playing that?
We played that game. 2014. We started the season, and that's why they've still got that fucking crazy good record as well. Round 1, we were smoking them actually.
remember the game.
20-0 or something. We were up by 3 or 4 tries. Snake did his hammy right before halftime. Yeah. They moved Stevie Maddai to fullback and they moved me to centres, and Billy just tortured me.
Yeah, right.
Just hammered me, just kept on coming down the edge. and they were like, you know what they're like.
Too good.
They were like not only coming, but they were telling me they were coming and shit. I start identifying, they start calling your name, like, he's fucking, all that shit.
How good were they at that?
That was mad. They
could sense weakness so well. Like Smithy was the best at that. and you could jump off the back of it, but
because I don't think Cooper played in that game.
Yeah, right.
That's how like.
That's probably why Smithy stood up for the field goal.
Smithy kicked the field goal.
Was it out of dummy half? I remember the game.
He got someone to pass him the ball.
Yeah, right.
Because Cooper wasn't there, and I can just remember. I can remember Billy was like. Pretty vocal, like he was verbally like letting me know that they were coming out.
But they'd never miss you, would they?
No.
And Smithy was that good at that. You could never, you could go down a short side against some dummy halves and sort of smoke and mirrors and bluff a little bit, but he'd catch you out
got
every
some stats
time.
For us.
Ben Hampton and Ben Roberts in the halves.
Ben Hampton and Ben Roberts.
Wow, Benny Roberts,
the Bennies,
good man.
Ben squared.
Ben squared. They got the win, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I can tell you're still filthy too. You haven't let it go.
Well, yeah, that was That was the year that could have been. So even though we lost to you in 13, I think we're better in 14. But then because we had all that experience.
What'd you finish 14?
We ended up falling off the cliff because we lost. We had a heap of injuries right at the back end of the season.
Against South, was it?
Yeah, we got smoked by South's first week of finals.
Yeah.
And then we got beaten by the Bulldogs, who went on to play in the grand final.
That's right.
But that year, like a few of us, in 13, a few of us had come over and like were journeymen, and then we finally got the opportunity to play like consistent first grade. Yeah. Then we got a full year. Obviously pissed off that we lost to you guys.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
That was such a hard game.
Who, me? Bring it up. Oh, yeah, I scored. Saluki saying I scored. Oh, I did score. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I think I scored maybe the first try. No, I didn't. No, I wasn't playing. It was when I got moved to the centres. Yeah. Anyway.
That's why he was targeting you. You were playing in the centres.
Yeah, they did. No, they made me aware that they were targeting me too in the second half. I can remember Billy saying some shit as he was walking past as they scored a try. Fozzie wasn't happy with something that I did. We'll get to Fozzie as well. 300 coming up this week. But yeah, Fozzie wasn't happy, and then fucking, I don't know, he was saying something to me, and I was just nodding my head, and then Billy walked past and said something about me being out in the centres and I shouldn't be there or whatever. Something, just chat like that to just get in your mind.
They were good at that.
Really good. really good, and I was rattled, and they just kept on coming, so.
The great men.
How did we get onto that anyway? What were we talking about? Oh, the field goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, GI, Benji, Sammy. Sammy's a real contentious one too. Didn't have as the longevity that the other guys had, but the impact that Sammy had. For me, he's an out-and-out Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Big Moz isn't in here. I thought maybe Moz only played 4 or 5 years, Adrian Morley.
Is that all he played, did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like he had a short stint, but geez, fucking people
What did Sammy
remember.
Burgess end up playing? 10? Was he 10 years?
So 2010, Sammy come over my year, and when did he finish? And then he had a stint away for a year and a half.
He went to English rugby, didn't he?
Yeah. So a year and a half, and then he finished in 2020. Lukey, can you have a look for us, please, and look at when I think Sammy did 10 years, won a premiership.
Well, you look at all those players; it's the influence they've had off the field more so, or on the field, but it's the influence off the field. I'm sure you speak to everyone that's played with Sammy Burgess. I've had a whole lot to do with him personally.
Yeah,
but everyone that
great human.
I've heard on and off the field.
Yeah, best.
But everyone you hear is it just says he's the best leader. So I would have loved to play with him. You just hear he was just the ultimate alpha male.
Yeah.
Similar to a Jared with his influence on the field. And,
that's a great comp.
But yeah, he deserves his spot, no doubt. Mate, they all do. They're just big names there.
2010 to 2014.
2010.
Back 2016 to 2019.
There you go. So what's that about? So Lukey said 2010 to 2014. After they win the grand final, we went and played Union, played in the World Cup. Yeah. Didn't go so well, come back in 2019 through the shoulder injury. So about 8 years. Yeah. But left a mark.
Cracking that 8 years.
Yep. GI's the other one. He'll be in the conversation for immortality for sure. Different positions. Like, did he win like Clive Churchill at 5'8"? Was
arguably he was 5'8" there, wasn't he? 2007, I think it was.
When you talk of X factor in those big games for Origin, as good as those 4 were through the middle and the spine, when they needed a big moment, it was Greg.
It was. He was sort of undercover a bit too, as big a name as he was, and as much as the respect that everyone had for him, he was a bit sort of undercover compared to that big 3.
Yeah, because he could only have 7 or 8 touches and influence the game, eh?
Yeah, big time. That year he played at 6. Remember he was putting those torpedoes up.
Yeah.
He was coming in and doing these kicks.
He was the OG Burton bomber.
Proper. And you'd have Crocker there coming. I've gone back. Mick Crocker.
Mick Crocker, yeah.
I just had a brain snap. Mick Crocker.
Did you miss the R, did you?
Yeah. Remember Mick Crocker was just coming flying through on those torpedoes. I remember he knocked out, was it against Snake? It was against
in the grand
Snake.
final.
That's right, it was too.
Yep.
GI. When I played in Origin against GI when he was at fullback, I was more worried than I was when Billy was there, and that's a huge call. Billy was the greatest fullback I've ever played against.
Yeah.
But just having GI's presence, when he was on and he was in the moment, and you could just see it was his day to shine. Like having him out the back, I say it similar to a Turbo. You know, when Turbo's out the back, because he's so physically big and he's got the instincts and the speed of a Billy Slater.
And skill.
Yeah. Like as an edge defender, as a 3-man.
It's disgusting, eh? Trying to figure out.
Like it's so hard to tackle because you're worried about the fend. You just picture GI when he threw Jamie Soward off that game down there. Like you're always worried about his power and his strength. So there was a game he just absolutely dominated us. They were up by about 40 and it was just GI coming on 3-on-2s all the time, and you just
honestly, the same player over and over again.
Same player, but he'd either throw you off. He's got the cutout ball. He'd just run over the top of you.
You feel like you're on an island.
Yeah, it was lonely. Such a good bloke off the field.
I know what you get like when you're lonely too.
Yeah.
You get a little bit sad. All right, mate. Let's get into congratulations to all those people. We're really in depth. That was just ad lib with me and Drew just talking about those guys as well. We didn't plan on doing it, but I'm glad we did, mate, because we got through some really good stuff for all those proper OGs. Just want to let everyone know that the BSE cans are available in Coles, so go and get them. They've been flying off the shelves, and I really appreciate everyone who messages us, whether it be on YouTube or Instagram, and telling us that they've just tried the energy cans and they love them. Got a message. This is off the back of me and Mace were speaking about this last episode, Drew, and we're going to roll into my opinion on acknowledgements of the 50, 100 games, debut games, which we'll get to in a bit. But off the back of Mace saying that he played his 300th rugby league game in France.
Yeah.
and there was zero fanfare.
He would have been filthy.
Furious.
He would have had his own banner, I reckon.
Furious, and he reckons it was a reason in which like fuck it, Baguette, I'm done. He was off our coach at the time who we called Baguette, Laurent Fresneau. He goes, I'm a Bulldogs fan from France. This is from Samia, 1330. I'm officially inviting Monsieur Mason to come get his 300th game jersey. Let's make it happen.
Is that a true story?
Yeah, it did. Like,
they actually send on to you?
No, this guy's just geeing up off the back of it. But basically saying, I think we're going to try go to the UK next year. I want to go. Yeah. I was geeing the boys up. I think we might go over there for Magic Round, their version of Magic Round next year, and go catch up with people and do some content around the Super League because I love my time over there. Yeah. And I'd love to connect with some of the boys. Like we got some mutual teammates. Yeah, you had Tommy Johnston.
I had Tommy Johnston there.
Mate, he was one guy we talked about. I forgot to mention. If he didn't have the injury history that he had at Wakey before he got to you guys, I'm telling you, he would have fucking dominated over here. He's a class winger.
I think he had an offer from South maybe a few years ago.
I think he had a couple.
Did he? Maybe earlier days. You'd know probably obviously more about it. When I was playing with him, I know that he mentioned something about an opportunity at South. Obviously, with players over there to come over here, the money needs to be right, doesn't it?
And to move their family over too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a lot to it, but he speed-wise and finishing. Instincts and that you've seen it. He's great. His ability to find himself in good positions. He does it consistently. So yeah, he's been a great player over there, and he's off to Wakey next year.
Yeah, he's heading back. Yeah, Wakey look like they're going to go back in with the new system. Yeah,
bit of
cash. He would have got good cash.
Kick back
Tommy
to Wakey.
Tommy loves cash.
You need a lot of money to go to Wakey. Yeah. Those change rooms there, man. Oh,
you know what? So the boys have because I'm really close with all the Wakey boys from my time. They would.
How long were you there, Hoz?
I was only there for 18 months. But Jakey Miller was there. You know Jakey Miller.
Champion,
so Jakey Miller, Matty Ashas, and a few of these other guys. And Matty Ashas is now still the skipper. And he goes, mate, you wouldn't believe it. We've got proper ice baths now. So like we used to. When I was there, this is 18, 19, do ice baths in fucking bins. You know, they fill up the bins, the dirty bins. Yeah.
Changing that small.
He goes, mate, the new owner has come in and he's revamped it, and it's like
they've done up all the grandstand.
I think so, yeah. They've done the grandstand, but just like in terms of the training facilities are so much better, which is, again, if you're coming over from, all the boys would used to take out the piss out of the players that would come from overseas. Yeah. None more so than I used to hear stories about Anthony Tupou when Tupou first got there.
I hated it.
Yeah,
the field there, they changed. So they had like a tennis court?
AstroTurf sort of.
AstroTurf. Yeah. So all the boys, the Catalans played there. So my last season, which was last year, round 2, the boys played on the AstroTurf.
Yeah.
And I think Tom was one of them, but all the boys had infections for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, they're bad.
So the first few rounds playing at Wakey, and then there was obviously the Super League have come in and gone like it's not right to play on. But mate, the boys literally had infections and stuff for 6 weeks. I don't know how it got passed in the first place,
mate.
As available to play because the surface was that bad.
That was Widnes, bro. That was Widnes for 3 years. The Widnes Vikings were in before they got relegated in the last year that I was there. So 2016, 17, 18, and there were players who, if you had just say if you're a little bit older and you had knee issues, players just sat it. They didn't play because it was dangerous.
How does that get pushed through?
It's a money saving thing for the stadiums and shit, so they don't have to spend
there's like
money.
A health and safety, or
you'd think so.
Like mate, the boys were like some of them were probably getting antibiotics.
Yeah,
like it was going on for 6 weeks just from, and there was other teams that were struggling with it as well. Yeah, like this field was so bad.
Yeah, you'd play all the young. It's
a good atmosphere there though.
Yeah, the Wakey,
the mad fans,
fan base.
Yeah. Castleford's my favourite.
Yeah, Cass.
It's like a jail field.
Getting changed in the toilets,
caged in,
using the same toilet as the opposition.
Yeah.
That's where Milky is now. He's loving life. Love your milk.
Yeah, good man, the milk.
All right, so mate, this is off the back of the chat that I had last week, mate. And like for me, I think I love what players do now and how they're celebrated. It wasn't as prevalent back in our time where you got celebrated for debut jerseys, 100, 200. I suppose great play. It was celebrated for, the bigger name players, and then specifically around maybe the 200 and 300.
Yep.
Now I feel like it's sort of gone the other way and there's too many.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the 50 the 150 and the 250 is not.
The 50 cracks me up too, bro.
Okay, all right, good, because I wanted to get your opinion on this. It got a mixed review, I'd say, from our Instagram, but in your opinion?
Yeah, I only laughed when you asked me. I laughed because I hadn't heard of celebrating 50 before.
Yeah.
When I went to Newcastle, it was a big thing. That's nothing against the achievement of playing 50 NRL games.
Of course.
It's a huge effort. But in my early days, it was always just celebrated like 100 and 150, 200, etc. So,
okay, so you still like the 50 past 100. So it's you're more the 50 is something that you're like, I personally wouldn't celebrate that or wouldn't.
I'm not against it. It was surprising. So it was funny when you brought up the topic.
Yeah.
So, because I remember when I was hearing 50 games get celebrated, I hadn't heard of it before. Not that it's a bad thing.
Mate, me and you are the same, and so was mates, because we're from it's an older era.
No one did it in the early days.
I think it started 18. It coincides with social media starting with teams, right? Yeah. And Clinton Torpy brought up a good point because he commented on it, and I respect obviously any OGs that have gone before. So Toops' argument for celebrating the 50 is it's above the league average. And apparently, because
that's above the league average, 50 games.
Yeah, so I think the league average is maybe 45, 40, 50. 40. Oh, right on 40. So Lukey's saying 40.
That's interesting hearing that.
Yeah, so Toops' argument was why not celebrate that, you're getting past the average. Well, whilst I agree, he also agreed with the centuries after that point. So he's opposite to you. He thinks celebrate 50, but then 100, 200, 300. I was cut all the 50 years out. That was my opinion. And again, it's just my opinion. I appreciate interactions like that from proper OGs. Got so much respect for Toops. But in saying that, my argument against that was when I play one first grade game, that is enough of an achievement and it should be celebrated with the family. That's enough for me, right? Then the next achievements and milestones I want to tick off is 100 games. It's not getting past the league average. That's nothing. That's something that I never would have considered. For some people, it might be an accomplishment. There are guys with different journeys, but I was never going oh geez, man, I'd love to get past the league average. That wouldn't have been appealing to me at all. My first target after getting about 5 to 10 games is going, all right, now I'm starting to feel comfortable. Fuck, can I get 100? Yeah. And 100 was a massive achievement for me. And you see what my career only got 20 past it. So that was huge for me. Again, for some other players that only got 50 or 60, maybe their thought process was different. Maybe getting to 50 was huge for them. But I'm not opposed to clubs acknowledging it. Yeah. So just say maybe you do something in-house. You're sitting there in the video room and they get up on the screen, whether you're at the Knights or whatever it may be, and they start playing a clip of your 50 games. Yeah, awesome. I don't need social media. I don't need a jersey presentation, and I don't think you need family involved in handing out the jerseys for the 50 or the embroidery. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it was just...
There's a lot to unload there. Sorry, Drew. I'm just throwing you.
No, I'm taking it all in because when you're explaining the league average and all of that sort of stuff, it was interesting. So I'm just taking it all in. I'm not against it. Celebrating people's successes is awesome. Yeah, it brings the team together and it's a great accomplishment. And everyone's on a different journey, as you just explained. The reaction at the start when I laughed was because I hadn't heard of celebrating 50 games. Yeah. But now you've gone into a bit more detail. It's just obviously a new trend. I think milestones should be celebrated if that's the way it is now. But it was just an eye-opener.
I'm just talking about...
I'm sure Mace agrees because when we came through, it wasn't celebrated. Yeah. So that's why it was interesting when you hear a lot of it now. But... mate, anything that gets everyone smiling and playing better. And
well, so that was the point. I sent a comment on the Instagram with regards to, do you think it can, if when you celebrate certain milestones, maybe it gets a bit of a lift from the boys? For sure. Come on, let's... for some, like I said, for some guys, 50 is a great achievement, and you might look at a player who might have been a journeyman, for example, or he might have been a player that you're like, fuck, hundreds a stretch for him. Let's celebrate this and let's have a good crack for him because he's been a journeyman bench player for his career, and let's try. It's not like you need any added incentive to play well anyway, but I suppose it can't hurt, right?
I love milestones are great. When you're in the room and people have got their families in there and there's highlights, it's always a good feeling. Like I said, it's good for the team, it's good for the player. So I love milestone games. It's always a little bit more emotion as we've both been a part of plenty. It's a good feel in the sheds, and there's always that extra little bit of motivation. Yeah. Let's celebrate 10 games. It could be the next.
I knew I could tell by the
in 20 years' time, that could be the next one.
Yeah.
10, 20, 30, 40.
Yeah, so I appreciate the comments. That was my opinion. Hey, not everything that I say, even though we do a podcast, that's just how I feel on the issue. It was like, sometimes I say things because I know it'll be very controversial and get people arguing. So I was setting a few people up for some reactions, but yeah, that's just my opinion. And speaking of milestones, 300 games for a good friend of ours, KIERAN FORAN. Obviously, you're so much more closer. Grew up, from juniors all the way through. He's about to play his 300th down at Illawarra this week.
Down at Illawarra against the Dragons. What an unbelievable achievement. I say to people, we all have a laugh about it, but he would have played 400 if he didn't have his roller coaster life that he's lived. But what a super player. You played next to him, and you probably played next to him a lot more than I did, obviously, week to week. We played a lot together in the juniors, and I'm so proud of KIERAN. Obviously, I grew up with him, spent every day with him as kids, knocking around on and off the field. We always had dreams of playing one NRL game, and then obviously both of us going on and having solid careers. But to watch KIERAN, the way he's played, the way he's handled himself, to deal with the ups and downs, and like you could vouch for it too. There's no one with more passion and hard work than KIERAN. He just wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's just such a competitor. Like everyone sees it there as a fan watching the way he plays, but there's his do or die attitude. He's just such a warrior, and it's he'll never give up. And there's plenty of times probably when he's gone through these setbacks, surely he's wanted to give up and just walk away from the game. But yeah, I reckon this will mean a lot to him because he's been through a lot, and what he's done at the Titans, I think, to get at the start of the year. Let's remember they were pretty poor.
0-8.
They were bad.
They lost their first 8 games, mate.
And I remember speaking to KIERAN after about 6 rounds, and he was just that positive, like he always is. I'm going to get the boys out of this, and then he has. Yeah. And to do what he's done up there with the motivation as a 34, 35-year-old, he's earned every bit of these 300 games, and what a player.
Some few things I just want to ask you before we move off. A lot of people, a lot of players don't like to identify one player as, they're either the favourite player or the toughest player. For me, he was my favourite ever teammate. He brought out the best in me at my time at Manly. And you talk about now the mindset that he's got now from where he was early on. He was like, despite being a key role in what we were doing when I was at Manly, he sort of just sat back. And when I chat to him now and about how confident and like how assured he is of himself as not only a player but also a human, it's a completely different side of Foz that I never got the pleasure of playing with. Yeah, and that's what I've had a couple of conversations with him about the Titans and where they're going. And he wants to be a huge part of it. And he believes that he can turn this club around. And it's like he never would have said that in 13 or 14 or 15 to me, for sure.
That's good insight. Obviously, you playing there with him for so long. He's quite a reserved guy, KIERAN, in many ways. He's a bit more of an introvert than a outspoken personality. And you playing, like I said, it's great insight from you. Obviously, playing all those great years with him at Manly, next to him, and seeing him week to week in videos. That's really good insight. But I've noticed that as a friend and watching him from his leadership. He's really taken on that group, hasn't he? And he's come out of his shell a lot. Obviously, the setback he had off the field with the private matter there with the family, you could see he's really got a purpose to give back and be a spokesman for mental health and that type of stuff. So what a champion of the game, and 300 games, what a player. Did
you guys ever get close to linking up? Like, did you have? Like, I know you would have had conversations. Did it ever get serious, or were you ever close at a particular club or trying to convince each other to go Roosters Manly back in the day?
We always spoke about it. It was a bit hard. Like, obviously the Roosters Manly was a bit, they were pretty set up there, and I had the good thing going on at the Chooks. But the time that was probably the closest was at Newcastle. I pushed really hard for KIERAN. We didn't have a 6. It was the second year I was there, or the third year. And I'll be straight up. The club missed the boat there. I was pushing really hard for it. Yeah, I know.
That would have been cool to see.
Yeah, there was a bit of pushback from that end, and Obviously, I was just a player, but
Yeah.
I knew how good he would be, and people were sort of riding him off a little bit at that point.
Yeah, that's
with
right.
his
They were
body
too.
and
Yeah.
and then he's gone on and he's played another 4 or 5 years. So he would have been a great asset up there. He would have been one of their best signings.
Yeah. And you two-
and to play together, it would have been. To be honest, we played together in an All-Stars game.
Yeah.
As you know, those games you sort of
Yeah,
you're on
that's
and off,
right.
you're on and off the field. So it was, but the whole week was good. But yeah, that would have been a dream to play with KIERAN, and I think our games would have complemented each other as well.
Would have been so good.
Left and right half, and just yeah.
That would have prolonged your career in the NRL, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you'd got KIERAN teamed up with KIERAN, and you two had been successful together, and I think you would have too. I reckon you stay in the NRL a little bit longer. You enjoy your footy here a little bit longer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Maybe in the afterlife we'll get back and play together. Continued.
I love it, mate. I love it. All right. Just want to thank everyone who has subscribed on YouTube, following us on Instagram, TikTok, and like Lukey has been promoting in the last couple of weeks, liking the YouTube clip posting. And already we're only, not only, but I think we're about half an hour, 45 minutes in this episode, and we've gone. We haven't even got to the topics that I was supposed to talk about yet. So let's get into
It's
it,
like
mate.
the Bali days, I was D&Ms.
Just sitting around the villa, chewing the fat the next day about what happened the night before, I think. All right, mate, let's get in this one from Daniel Robinson. We're talking a little bit of Olympics, Juju, so this gives you a bit of a look into the mindset of pole vaulters. We were discussing how you get into pole vaulting. Me and Mace just go on tangents, mate. We're talking about the pole vaulters after
Freaks,
mate, here we go. So this is from Daniel Robinson. Hey boys, I have a background in athletics up in Queensland. They don't have pole vault, hammer throw, or steeplechase in Little Athletics due to safety. There are events that are introduced at the amateur level to older kids that are still interested, if they're still interested in the sport. If you come through Little Athletics, pole vaulters are usually good at long jump and high jump, which makes sense. We also had someone reach out to us last week and say, if you've got a gymnastics background, that makes sense for pole vaulting as well. As you need to have a quick run up and an explosive takeoff. The biggest thing you need is no fear of heights. It's probably the most mentally challenging event to master in the sport of athletics. Remember Steve Hooker? He went from winning a gold at Beijing in 2008, and remember he couldn't get off the tarmac in 2012. Do you remember that, Drew? I
can't remember.
So he was unable to get off the ground. He had 3 goes at it. He ran, and he didn't plan.
Out of fear.
I remember it was like he got the yips.
Yeah, like a blockage or something.
Yeah, like a blockage. Lukey, do you remember that? Vaguely remember. I do. I remember that too. Yeah, Daniel Robinson's bringing back some memories of that. So maybe there's a little clip we can put next to that. But that, like, when you talk about, I don't know if you watch much of the Olympics, Stu, or the track.
Yeah, I watched plenty of it. Yeah.
That makes a lot of
Got
sense.
weird body types, the pole vaulters, don't they?
Yeah.
Like they're sort of like snake necks.
You'd have to. You obviously got to be
Their
thin.
shoulders are a bit. That was something I noticed. A lot of
Brett
them have
Stewart. Brett Stewart's
Yeah. Coat hanger head.
What's doing, son? But yeah, so they've got to obviously have really strong core. But yeah, I vaguely remember that. Yeah, Steve Hooker winning gold at Beijing, and then he just kept on running and he just didn't plan. He just ran, like, got the yips. And
But the height that they get,
well, that's
it must be that scary up there.
Well, it's a genuine fear.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he had an accident between 2008 to 12 that maybe Lukey, you can look as we're talking through this, we'll come back to it, Lukey, but let us know about Steve Hooker and what happened from 2008 to 12. Here's a good one for you, mate. We talked at length about Shaun Johnson, life after footy. And this one's from Kanjan Callahan. Shaun Johnson did speak about coaching, but not first grade. He spoke on his subject on his new podcast, Play It On. And in his retirement announcement, he said there's an opening for younger grades. He's in talks with the Warriors to stick around and would love to do halves coaching or an SJ Academy back home in New Zealand. He'll be a great mentor for young players. What he has can't be taught, but his teaching mind of a halfback he can do, that's enough to raise the next generation of New Zealand rugby league players. You agree with that, mate?
Yeah, he'll be great over there. Obviously, there's no better to teach skill set than Shaun Johnson, and obviously his influence there. It's great to hear because it's obviously a path that me and Toddy, for example, are trying to go down as well.
Yep.
And hopefully we can maybe link up with him if we ever go over there and
That'd be awesome.
share some ideas. I just think about the player Shaun was, what he achieved, his skill set. He'd be a great influence for all those young Kiwi kids, even in touch footy and all of that sort of stuff, to pass on all his knowledge. I'd love to sit down and hear his outlook on footy as well, because he was different.
There you go. Play it on. Let's tag the boys at Player On, Shawnee. Yeah. Let's organise a Mitch Pearce, Todd Carney, Shaun Johnson getting together, discussing halves play, and then maybe little clinics through New Zealand and Australia where you get all three. A little bit of cash on the side, hey?
Yeah, I'd love to listen to Shaun's outlooks on footy, because similar to Benji, he changed the game in a lot of ways.
He changed his style too.
Yeah, he did. He sort of, I think the last couple of years, last year especially when he had the really good year, he developed that game management style to an extent. He was not, he'd probably say himself, he was never the master game manager. He was an instinctive player and spatial player, but geez, he was brilliant. And congratulations to Shaun. I always loved playing against you. One of the best halves we've seen, and an absolute icon there, close to, not far behind or on par with the great Stacey Jones over there with his influence. And the amount of kids that would have watched him play coming through. As I said, he changed the way the game played. As a half, I didn't have that flair as such with footwork, but you'd watch a Shaun Johnson and try and take his strengths into your own game if you could. I could never step like him, but yeah.
You had more of a sharp go forwards. You had a pretty good running game, but yours was more direct.
Yeah.
He could go bang, bang. He could probably step you twice and think before you realised.
Mate, the highlight for me from him was the one in the semi-final 2011 when they played Manly. It was against Melbourne and he scored that try. There's another one in the World Cup for New Zealand.
Big Sammy Burgess.
When he's just gone whooshka.
I've seen that. Mace was talking about that in the 2013 World Cup.
That's
to go into the final,
It's just that left foot and... Yeah, what a player, and congratulations, mate.
You know, I forgot to talk about this, I think it was maybe on Monday or the last week, is the influence that Shaun Johnson and Benji Marshall in particular would have had on New Zealand Rugby League. So when you think of New Zealand, you think rugby union and the influence that the All Blacks had. I reckon those two guys in particular, and you could probably throw Roger Tuivasa-Sheck into that category as well, with the influence that he would have had on young kids deciding to play rugby league. Compared to rugby union. I think there would have been, like, you can't understate that, how popular they were in their game in NRL. Therefore, if some of these kids were on the fence about what they wanted to do, whether they wanted to play union or league, I think they would have persuaded so many young kids in New Zealand to play league. Yeah,
definitely. It was just funny when you mentioned Benji. I went up to KEBRA Sports last week. I was in Queensland, seeing Toddy up there and working on a couple of things, and he's working at KEBRA Sports, and obviously there's a big Kiwi culture there.
Huge,
There was even young kids there that were like, these kids would have been 13, saying that they're going to this school because Benji went there.
Wow.
And that's the legacy. These kids wouldn't have even watched Benji.
Well, the first I ever heard of KEBRA Park...
They might have watched a little bit of him, but...
The first I ever heard of KEBRA Park was when he was playing first grade, and they're like, this kid's still in high school at KEBRA Park or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he was going back and chucking his backpack on the Monday to Friday and then coming playing on the weekends, I think, at the time.
They've had some good ones up there. Well, they had Walshy there as well. They've had Payne Haas. They've had David Fafita. So imagine playing all them.
That would have been around the same time.
Right.
I think Tino and Dave Fafita and all that played together at a young age. That's disgusting.
Yeah, imagine them. Little white half.
Coming down, taking down, imagine the runts of a young Kieran Foran and Mitch Pearce and Liam Foran at North Sydney taking on that Queensland team. As
6'4" with big ratties. Payne Haas running over the top.
You got Walsh.
When I saw footage of Payne Haas it must have been in a story they'd written about him on Channel 9 or something when he was in the juniors.
Yeah.
Mate, he was as big as he was.
It's huge. I seen him take it.
Off kickoffs, just running straight through.
There's a clip where he takes it to the house from the kickoff.
Yeah.
And it's just terrifying.
What a player.
It's terrifying. All right, this one is from, remember, Lukey, look up hooker for us. We still want to know. Nothing, not much there. Okay. So, all right, he's in the Hall of Fame. Oh, well, there you go. So
I've got a thing for you on the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it, and I wanted to put it on the public.
Yeah, go on.
Not that anyone listens to me.
Yeah, no, trust me.
Watching the Olympics closely, if you win a gold medal in the Olympics, you should get government benefits every year till you die.
Love it.
Because I just watch them and you feel a bit guilty in a weird way, because as a footballer, we're so blessed.
What about the breakdancing?
Yeah, maybe not breakdancing.
I'm only kidding. Go, keep going.
But I
with
just
this.
got this theory, and it popped into my head when I was watching it. I'm probably not the first person to think of it, but I was like, if you win a gold medal, which is such a privilege,
Yep.
and it's one of the greatest achievements for our country, you should get at least 100K every year in government funding till you die. I know that the war vets get it, which they well and truly deserve.
Yep.
I know some police, somewhere in police, I think get
If you
benefits.
get to a certain level?
Certain level.
Yep.
Obviously politics and all that sort of stuff, and the government, they all get it. I just think if you win a gold medal for Australia at that highest level, which is, so rare, there should be some sort of benefit where you get for the rest of your life.
I think we can find a sweet spot for this. I think 100K might be a bit much for a few
just
people,
something.
Taxpayers. For sure, that needs to be celebrated.
Because you hear these stories of just
even
some of them are paying. There's some of the best world champions. There's a young girl that's a sprinter at the moment who's our a name will come.
Training with Rog.
Training with Rog.
Yeah. And she's having to pay her way
bad.
through it.
I know her mum will. I've just had a brain freeze. We'll find it.
We'll figure it out later.
But she's going to the world champs in Peru in a couple of weeks. She's the best. She's got the better record than Sally Pearson at the same age. So she's our best hope.
I've seen Rog posting her all the time. Maybe Lukey can look. Lukey, go on Roger's post.
Can I throw a take on this too?
Yeah, go on.
It's just like boxers. Like only the cream of the crop. It's hard to be a boxer.
Yeah.
Until you get to the top. It's the same with the elite level athletes in sprinting.
Let me look up her name.
Yeah, that's not a fair take. Yeah, but that's in terms of just say how we celebrate all the different sports. So Lukey is comparing it to boxing, how you grind, you eventually get to become the best, and then you get rewarded at the top. I think the way we celebrate gold medals and the you're having a look for it.
I'm just trying to find her name. I should know it.
There's maybe not every year. I think there might be some pushback on that, but I think the reward initially for the gold medal should be a lot higher than what it is.
They get nothing.
30K.
It's about
30K.
30K. Yeah.
Kiwis get nothing.
Kiwis don't get anything.
Imagine the money that they're getting from TV rights.
I've seen that. Yeah, Shawnee was talking about it as well. He's paying. I think Shaun Johnson has gone on. He's got a New Zealand athlete, and individuals.
He manages her.
No, so he's reached out to a New Zealand athlete and said they should be paid for their services to the country, which I fully.
Because I saw a thing on Instagram and it goes to what countries get paid.
I know that. Yeah. And so
Sorry, I'm just looking for this fucking.
Yeah, we'll
name.
get it up.
Here it is.
It's
Delta.
Delta. Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, Delta. Ahmed Voski. Ahmed Voski.
Well, you butchered the last name, but that's
I'll just
right.
say
Delta. Young Delta.
Yeah.
And she's a gun. And I've seen Rog posting about her as well.
She's the best in Australia, I think, in 100 hurdles.
Yeah, got
So
ya.
she's going to Peru, but they got to pay to go there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
So
you get a bit guilty as an athlete. 'Cause
Yeah,
you look
for
at
us.
For us, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously, it's the sport you choose and it's the benefits that come with it. But you watch the Olympics and everything that they put into it. Like, I just think it would be right to, if you win a gold medal, that you get some sort of benefit.
For sure.
For the rest of your life.
I think maybe we definitely need to increase from 30K if that is indeed accurate.
Yeah.
There are some countries that don't pay anything. There are some countries, I've seen a thing on Bleacher Report, and I think this is where the boys got it from. They were going through each country, and there are different levels. There are countries that are so unique that they very rarely get it. There was like they bought them land, they bought them property and gave them houses. Like that's how rare it is for them to get a gold. So you couldn't probably do that to America, right? Like if you continually gave Americans for all the gold medals that they got, it's not sustainable. Yeah. But I think, and I know this because I've had a chat to James. I do a radio with James Magnuson every Saturday morning, and he talked about.
How did he win? He won.
No, he didn't. He was so close. He got second.
I thought he was gold medalist. No.
Yeah, but he talked about like the dedication that it takes, similar to track in the pool, where you don't get hardly any benefits at all from anything from the sport leading into it. Because he talked about a story where like Speedo is probably the biggest sponsor that you can get as an athlete for a swimmer, right? But the Australian team was sponsored by Speedo,
so they don't get any benefits.
So they didn't get any endorsement deals from Speedo, which is like it made it very hard for him to make an earn. And at one point,
so how do they make money?
They didn't, mate. Like they just
so they just got to bank on post sport if they
Kellogg's,
can pick up stuff.
Wheat Bix fucking commercials, that sort of stuff. So like you think about the girls swim team.
So unless they're marketable. If they're the best athlete but they're not marketable, they get nothing.
There you go.
That's so poor.
Yeah, there you go.
That's so bad.
Boxing, same thing. So, yeah, I think there's a world in which definitely the number has to come up for Australia. I think there wouldn't be any Australians that would be opposed to getting, I think 100K where you're going at would be, it's got to be a floor. Like, it's got to be a floor. Like, if you think about how hard we celebrate gold medals here in Australia and New Zealand, I think those guys should come home to $100,000 sitting in their bank account from the government for what they've been able to
at least one off.
Yeah, at least
some consistent.
Yeah, and then maybe like, I don't know, because you got to take in consideration relays. They're adding all these new sports like BMX and fucking skateboarding and breakdancing coming in now.
The kangaroo hop. That was the best.
Anyway, we've gone on some good tangents this morning, June.
Good, eh?
All right, let's get back to it. This episode's going to last for about 2.5, 3 hours. This one's from HGN Mitch, and it's not Mitchell Pearce. The worrying thing about Gutho kicking is his consistency. Each kick comes off the boot differently. There's no consistency. He slices some, he hooks others, even down to his run-up and pre-routine. He struggles with repetition. A first-grade goal kicker needs a consistent, repeatable action. I always think back to Thurston. His pre-kick routine was the same every single time, and it led to almost every kick coming off the tee exactly the same.
Is that Daryl Halligan just right in there? Is it?
Did you ever do any goal kicking? I know you kick goals at certain points of your career.
Not much.
Talk about routine for you as just a yardage kicker, and then when you did do goal kicking, super important to have a routine of something like that, right? Because there's a lot of validity in this, and I agree. Sometimes Gutho gets up, and the way that he shanks some of his kicks remind me of me on the first tee sometimes when I play comp at the coast when I'm playing golf. Like, you're just missing a bit of routine, and it leads to some wayward kicks for him.
I can't talk too much about goal kicking because I actually wasn't much of a goal kicker.
Would you have kicked
I've kicked a couple, mate. I didn't kick much in first grade. When I was in the juniors, like 13, 14, I used to goal kick a little bit. Then when I came in through grade, there's always a goal kicker, and I was like third in line. So to be honest, I hardly ever kicked in. I might have had 3 or 4 kicks in.
Can you talk to us about
NRL
repetition for like yardage kicks then, and how important a certain routine and rhythm was for you then?
Everything. Like just the hours and hours and hours you put into your yardage kick. You know, I've added all of those hours up from sort of 12 years of age till the end of my career. It's thousands of hours. And it's always the same routine. And then I could probably speak from watching goal kickers. Jimmy Maloney was probably the best goal kicker that I played with and watched him. It's a basic routine and a basic repetition, isn't it? I don't want to comment too much on goal kickers because they're probably looking going, shut up, Pearcy, you never goal kicked. But
they're right, mate.
Field kicking.
I talk about a lot of shit that I'm not.
But I can't. I think from observing the best goal kickers, it's similar to a field kick in a way where you've got your simple routines. For me, for field kicking, it was, it's the most important thing. And when I coach, it's the most important thing is keeping your head down. Yeah. Like a golf swing. You got to keep your head down, follow through. Yeah. There it is. Keep your head down, follow through. I think that's the greatest 2 little simple principles that you stick to. I know with my long kicking, that was, people forget it all the time. Like you just naturally get, like whether it's golf, whether it's kicking a ball, you just go, I want to bang it as hard as I can. Well, it's when you lack trust and confidence in where it's going, right? There you go. So I see that with a lot of the young kids that are sort of 15, 16, still racking up the hours till it becomes a full habit. Yep. They pull their head back a lot, and it's usually when there's a bit of pressure on and you're not trusting whether it's going to go there. So that was my whole thing. Over time, you know that you're going to hit the spot, not every time, but you know that the best way to get it there is head down, follow through. You know what? When I think back now of some of the better kickers in the game right now, the one that comes front of mind is Nathan. Yeah. And when I think of Nathan, I always think he is that committed to head down that I think sometimes it's like delayed. Yeah. It feels like it's delayed when I watch him. Dan Carter was another one. Yeah, Dan, like he's like kicking and it's like way past, and he even like emphasizes it and then sort of looks up. Well, like I can think about like this when you watch highlights of Nathan. This is just me. Like thinking about them and just thinking about him in slow mo, you can just overemphasizing looking into the ground and just not even caring about where it's going. But it'd be a conscious. Yeah, I'm sure it'd be Nathan would be obviously the one to talk to, but it'd be a conscious thought. That would be hours and hours and hours. I keep saying it of how he's practiced. Yeah, keep your head down, follow through, trust your kick. Yeah, it's a great few little tips for the skill. It's like any skill. You have your under pressure, the systems need to stay the same. Keeping your head down. It's the same in golf, isn't it?
Yep.
Not that I'm any good.
And I should be better than what I am with the amount of golf that I play. This one's from Tamana for me. Kia ora, boys. L1 since day one. Quick question for Scope. I saw Uncle Mark, obviously referring to my old boy, Mark Horo, just got a coaching mentor role for New South Wales Māori Rugby League. I didn't know that. Could we maybe see you step into a trainer mentor role to help your old man out? I remember helping my dad out for the West Māoris, being ball boy since he was a trainer for them, seeing you and your brothers play for North Māoris whilst your dad was the coach, Chair Boys. Tamana, I love those days. I don't think that competition, we used to have like a knockout, you know, the Indigenous competitions that they got grand final week. We used to have a one-day event for New Zealand Māoris out west at some areas. It used to be north, south, east, west, obviously, and there'd be there was one year our team was stacked. I played for North with Skiddy, Sean Kenny-Dowell, Jimmy Tamo. Who else played in that? Well, that's enough. Those guys ended up playing for the Kiwis in Australia, respectively, the following years. It used to be a really entertaining competition. It's not as strong anymore. Coaching and stuff, that's my dad did that his whole life. It's not as appealing to me. I love what you're doing. I love specific coaching and mentoring. I think there's a world in which like I love footy that much, and I love like watching film, and I love watching games that I think a mentoring role, I would enjoy that, but it'd have to be like more individuals rather than teams. Like I don't enjoy the team. I used to see my dad come home and just like be so stressed out with coaching, and that was just like under 20s Premier League and all that sort of stuff. But if there was something for news,
did he coach Parra, your dad?
So dad got to 20s level.
New Zealand or
no at Parramatta.
Parramatta,
He got to, he did the junior Kiwis in different roles throughout his career. He did some stuff with the New Zealand Māoris as a footy manager more. And he did, the highest he got was New South Wales Cup under Wayne Bennett at the Dragons.
Yeah, right.
But then he had to deal with a couple of times he had Big Del drop back into his team. I think the Moz boys got dropped back. It's a really unique situation coaching those New South Wales Cup teams who obviously
players coming in and out
don't want to be there.
I've sort of got a little bit to do with it now watching it. It is, you're right, the cohesion's hard, isn't it? Because you've got players coming in, younger guys coming up that aren't as used to it. So
you know what he struggled with?
It's changed too, hasn't it, Hoz? Like reserve grade, when we were coming through, reserve grade was such a hard standard. Not saying it's not now, but I feel like it's different because of the age.
Well, I'll say it's not,
in
mate.
fluctuation.
It's not as hard because there's different comps. So there's players that's been spread out amongst Queensland Cup, New South Wales Cup, and Super League. So it's not as hard as it used to be. I think
players are getting moved on quicker, aren't they?
Yes.
Back in the day, you'd have your stalwart reserve grade players that'd be still 32 playing, and they were hard old heads. Where now it's
200 games. Like some guys that play 200, just gun reserve grade players might be on like 50K, you reckon? For like that entire time, and just probably never going to play first grade, but we're just hard nut, and you learn how.
Still a place for that, I reckon.
So I think so.
Helps the younger guys come in, especially an old half that's sort of been around for a long time. I think we spoke about this before, but you know, their leadership in that grade can be priceless, I think.
For sure. And I would love to do stuff if there was like that competition was brought back in for the New Zealand Māoris, and that's only like 2 or 3 weeks a year. So I'm like a rep coach, you know, like just come in only and do like 2 or 3 weeks. The whole season probably doesn't interest me one bit.
Mr. 1%, just teaching the fine details.
Just be that, you know, there was always like maybe, you know, some coaches or assistant coaches. How do I put it? They wouldn't be against the first grade coach, but you had a better relationship with them, and you probably had more trust, and then therefore you do more in-depth review of your game or preview of your game. They just helped you out a little bit more, and that just developed through connection. I think I'd love to do that. That would be appealing. But I think a lot of ex-rugby league players would love to do the assistant coach. No pressure.
100%.
Not being first grade coach. All right, Flanagan has copped 4 games for biting on Crichton. Dragons 5'8". Kyle Flanagan will miss the rest of the regular season after found guilty of biting skipper Stephen Crichton. The NRL suggested 4 to 6 games. while the defence said anything more than 2 would have been too much. Jack Whiten got 3 last year, but the judiciary said, and Henry Perenara, Greg McCallum said that the case was irrelevant and that they wanted to send a clear message to players of just how serious biting was. Do you think 4 was the sweet spot for what happened? And yeah.
I think it was good. He needed to get some sort of punishment. I said it the other day on Fox, I think it was, the fact that the player, Crichton, had his nose in his mouth. I think it's a bit of a different thing than someone going looking for skin.
Correct. I agree.
If your arm's over there and I go to bite you,
I agree.
It's very malicious. It's a bit different. I'm not saying it's right. It definitely needed to be punished. But if someone's got their nose or their hand in your mouth, it's not right to bite them. But I don't think it's as serious a punishment as maliciously going looking for someone's piece of skin.
I agree.
That makes sense.
And I was trying to describe it similar to you, where on Monday I said to Mace, like, he deserves to be punished, and he will be punished accordingly, and he'll probably get 3 or 4 games. So I think we nailed that. But in the heat of the battle, sometimes you clench and you just bite down, and it might not even be that there's a body part in your vicinity. You're just like clenching your teeth and jawline, trying to get out, like,
What was his defence, Flano? Accident.
Well, basically insinuating that if Stephen Crichton doesn't put his body, like his nose in that position, then it doesn't lead to him obviously biting him. Like, it was like a.
You can understand that.
I can understand
defence.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a weird situation, isn't it? But you got to punish someone to bite.
Correct. I agree. I think 4 games is correct. All right, let's get into transfer news, mate. Blaise Talangi to Panthers officially.
Great signing.
Valentine Holmes on a 3-year deal to Dragons. That's done now. And those are the 2 main ones. Let's talk about those. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Talangi. What's his best position, and where do you think he'll play at Penrith?
Well, Penrith clearly have signed him as a 6.
You think so? That's what I thought so,
For sure. Well, obviously, Jerome moves on, and I think he's the perfect foil to lose Jerome with the combination that him and Nathan have had. I think it's a perfect pickup with what's available.
Yep.
I think with what's available in the competition, who's off contract, I think he'd be a really good foil there for Nathan. He'll play that left edge. He plays a bit of ad-lib, similar to Jerome. I love him as a player. And
so do I.
The good thing for him is he can play that centre role, obviously, and fullback. But I reckon with that Penrith system, with Nathan's guidance and the culture they have there, he could be the buy of the year there.
He's super raw. You could defensively.
Yeah. How old is he?
I think 19.
19, yeah.
Yeah. He made a few questionable, like against Penrith. He comes shooting out of the line and he clips Liam Martin, which leads to Liam Martin hitting Dijon Arcee, which leads to the line break. And he's had a couple of those in the last couple of weeks, but the talent is there. I also agree. Mace thinks he might start off in the centres or on the wing. He could be a swap for Taruva to begin with. Yeah. They've got the young kid Jack Cole that they've put a couple of years into out there. He played with Jerome in the 7 and 6 while Nathan was out for a little bit. I think we see Talangi at least compete for the 6. I think that's a possibility for Penrith.
A little bit of depth there now as well, which is good for them.
And worst case, they play him on the wing or centres to begin with, and then see if he can play 6 long term.
It's going to be a good finish for the year to see if they can go to win it. The way Nathan's playing, honestly.
I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about this first game we're going to talk about in a bit. Holmes to Dragons makes sense. Flanagan, good deal. 1 year left at the Cowboys. A lot of people put this together. I thought the Roosters might make a play for a guy like Val Holmes, but whether they did or not, he just seemed to me to be a Roosters sort of player with Joe Manu and Joseph Swaley moving on. Yeah,
you could see him. It'd be interesting if they had a bite for him. Obviously, it's over my head. I haven't heard much about it, but yeah, I think his relationship with Flanagan there, obviously they won the grand final in 16 together. I think it might be a good move for Valentine as well to get out of the Cowboys. He's obviously had a really good impact there, but when the club's sort of talking about getting rid of you for a while and you're losing that little bit of trust there, which they have been. There's been a fair bit of talk about that for a while. Obviously, the money's on and everything like that.
I think
going back to his old mentor, I think it might be a good move for him. Give him a bit of regenerate him a bit for the back end of his career. He's a great goal kicker.
True.
So that's huge for the Dragons.
And they're losing Lomax.
Who's obviously he's a perfect foil for that. replacement. Sorry for Lomax. And yeah, great big game player. So
Yeah, I agree.
but I feel like Flanagan's that sort of guy because that Cronulla 16 team, all their senior players talk so glowingly about Flano. So
I like
obviously-
Flano.
Yeah, so he's obviously got a great rapport with senior players. So I think it's a great move.
I think he's got a bit of old school about him that Ricky has, where when you're a veteran, an older player, you respect it a lot more.
Yeah.
And like I see Sticky talk about it a lot. He asks the opinions of the younger players from his older players, and then therefore you build trust. And there's no
Good for the dynamics, isn't it?
It's good for the dynamics.
Yeah.
There's no animosity amongst the playing group about guys being rewarded too early,
Yep.
and therefore you get the best of some of the younger players that are coming through. I think that works.
I like
really
those
well
old
for
school
them.
coaches
Yeah,
too.
so
I
do
agree with you.
Yeah. The reports are that Flano's not done, and if he is not done, he's been looking for a front row. Now, Parramatta have reportedly told Reggie he's free to look Regan Campbell-Gillard for next year. So apparently he's reported to be on 750 to 800,000 at Parramatta. So that would be 800 cap relief. Can you see potentially a rebuild? Knowing how relationships can be with certain players, and when I think of Parramatta, I think of Gutho, Mitch, Junior and Reggie, like those guys. They've been the staples now at the Parramatta team for 5+ years. Do you think that affects the relationship between those players, or it's just business as usual for all of those guys as individuals moving forward?
It's a hard one to answer, I think. From my point of view for Reg, I think someone like a club like the Dragons could be could be a good move for him and for the Dragons.
Yeah.
You know, they get Valentine there. They're probably lacking that one alpha, if you want to call him that.
Yeah.
Rep forward. He could be a really good pickup for Dragons, for example. But does it affect Parramatta? I think there's going to be a fair bit more change going on there.
I agree.
And let's be honest, they're coming close to last. So there has to be some sort of change. Riles he would have had a fair time now to look at where they're at.
Did you have much to do with Rolls when
I
he was at
played with
Roosters?
Rolesy.
Did you? Oh, you did too.
I
Yeah,
played
that's
with Rolesy.
right. Yeah.
I went to Rolesy's wedding actually.
Yeah.
So I had a good relationship with him. I was only a kid, but he was really good to me, Rolesy, and had a really good relationship with him. So
Okay.
I've always had a lot of respect for Rolesy. I think he'd be a great coach. He's one of those coaches like Fitzy that's done their time. They've been in the best systems for 10 years. They haven't rushed their journey. They've sort of done the time. So I think he'll do a really good job. One thing he'll do, he'll want to nail it. So any decision he makes is going to be calculated and well thought out, I'd say.
Yeah.
The players he brings in and the players he wants there.
So this seems to me like this is the first domino. There was reports around not only Reg but also Gutho and also Ryan Madison as well.
Yep.
They haven't been confirmed. I think this is now being confirmed that they've been given permission. And I think Reg, if you look what Flano's trying to do and the relationship that he's always had with senior players and his coaching style, I think if you bring in Val, Cookie, Damien Cook,
Cookie there too.
Cookie and Regan Campbell-Gillard, that's a pretty quick rebuild. Now, it's not going to be long term. You're probably going to get a little 2-year window, but
Just tightens them up a bit, doesn't it?
well, a couple of years ago, outside of Benny Hunt, it was very hard to find guys that would if he was to move on, like who were you going to make a skipper? Yeah. Now you got 2 to 3 guys or 3 guys that would have been part of the leadership groups for all 3 of the teams that they're playing at. So,
as we know, when you get a bit older and using Damien Cook as an example, sometimes you just need that little lift at the back end of your career.
Yeah.
And
a little bit extra
people
motivation.
sort of say, they're older legs, but they'll probably squeeze 2 good years out of those players.
I agree.
And as you just said, Flano's relationship with senior players, he'll know how to manage them. So they'll be good next year, Dragons, if they can pick these players up.
Yeah. If they can get Regan for sure, and if Para indeed do let him go. How are we going, Lukey? Are we going good for time? 30 minutes, perfect. Yeah, I'm going to roll through the tips to finish off with. Have you got 15, 20?
Yeah, perfect, brother.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. All right, mate. I do NRLW picks, every week as well. I was on fire the first 2 weeks, had a bit of a down week last week, but a bit of a review for everyone that has been following me. Last week I had 2 from 5 on the season. That makes 10 from 15. To kick off this round, we have the Broncos versus the Raiders. Broncos bounced back really well against the Titans last week. I'm on the Broncos again. Cowboys versus the Titans. Although the Titans lost to the Broncos last week, mate. Titans are my team to win it for the NRLW, so I'm on the Titans. The Dragons had a really good win against Newcastle. They're playing the Roosters this week. Upset alert, Dragons are my roughie of the week to beat the Roosters, who won last week as well. Cronulla are undefeated for this season. They take on Newcastle, the back-to-back premiers in the NRLW. I got Newcastle in that one. And the Tigers versus the Eels. These are probably two of the teams. Well, the Eels have probably been one of the biggest surprises of the NRLW this year. I think they're too good for the Tigers. Let's get into the late mail for the NRL, kicking off with the game of the week. Panthers versus Storm, 7:50 at Bluebet Stadium. Panthers star fullback Dylan Edwards is set to return from a knee injury with James Fisher-Harris. The pair have been retained in the 19-man squad with 24 hours to go, so it seems like they will be playing. Maverick Guy and Liam Henry have come into the side for the injured Scott Sorensen and suspended Liam Martin. As for the Storm, they welcome back Ali Katoa. He missed last week's game against South Sydney. That means Big Nous will go back to prop. Tui Kamakamitha coming off the bench. And that's it for the main part. But, mate, this is going to be a cracker tonight.
I can't wait to watch it. I think both teams on paper defensively, it's hard to split them, but I always go back to, I don't always, but with these type of halves that they got with Jerome and Nathan, it's going to come down to moments. It's going to be like an Origin game, isn't it?
Kicking game weather, you counted that in with the wet weather the last couple of days here in Sydney?
Yeah, I think it's always slippery out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
especially
awful.
in Penrith. It's slippery at the best of times, let alone when it's had a bit of rain.
I used to hate playing at Penrith, even when they weren't that great. Like,
it's cold and dark.
Yuck.
Sheds, hostile with the crowd there. Fanatical fans out there. But, yeah, look, I just can't wait to watch. Keep talking about him, but I can't wait to watch Nathan and Jerome. I reckon they're both, in my opinion, they're the top two halves in the game.
I agree.
I think he's so unassuming. He'll back himself here against this contest.
Yeah, so I think we're going to get the best version of them for sure. The tab have Penrith $1.53 favourites. Here we go. We're getting some bellyache quotes as I'm reading this out. The Melbourne Storm are $2.50. The line is 4.5. I'm going to go the line 4.5 at the tab. Lukey's just sent us an update. He's got some mad bellyache quotes. Which is rare.
Was this the shotgun one?
I love Belly. Belly's just a little bit of tongue in cheek about how you stop Nathan Cleary, and he said, "Shotgun, that's it." And jokes aside, at the moment with the form that he's in. It's going to take a big effort from Melbourne. It's going to take a real big effort.
Yeah.
But I think there's two guys from Melbourne that will be relishing this challenge. One, Jerome Hughes, followed by the Cameron Munster, who just trying to find his form after injury as well.
Well, it's a great indicator, isn't it, of what's going to happen in probably 6 weeks going into the finals. I think the Roosters and these type of teams are going to be watching closely and trying to break down where the weaknesses are. I can't wait to watch the game, and I just think it's going to be interesting, the mind games or the game plans that are coming in. Both teams wrestle the shit out of you. Both teams complete high consistently, and
I can see a low scoring game out there tonight. I think I can see like a 16-10, 16-14 sort of game. I actually
maybe a field goal.
Really good. Ooh, there you go. I love field goals. I always do a field goal prediction. I haven't hit one yet, so maybe you can hit it for us.
There we go.
Yeah, and I think this has huge repercussions for the Roosters because this could determine 1 and 2 and who the Roosters play first week of finals.
Yeah.
So they'll be watching. All right, the first game up tomorrow is the Seagulls versus the Warriors at 4 Pines Park. Senna Tolukola is eyeing return. He's still listed as 18th man. Apart from that, they've also got a boost in Josh Alloway selected to complete his comeback as well, with Nathan Brown moving from the back fence to the bench and Toa Fofoa Sipley dropping out. I don't like that. I like Sips. For the Warriors, Webster has called for reinforcements after last week's Golden Point loss. Shawnee Johnson's back. He missed last week with a quad strain. Marcelo Montoya and Adam Pompey are also back from injury, while Ali Lautea ruled out due to concussion. Did you see that? He got kneed in the head by his own player.
I didn't see it.
Edward Cossey. Yeah. So this looks like the tab have got Seagulls of heavy favourites, $1.18. Warriors of $4.80. I'm on Manly 13+, and that's the line as well. Drew, can Warriors pull anything crazy out here, or do you think Manly true contenders in your eyes?
Last couple of weeks, I was massive on Manly sort of 6-7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Probably a bit longer. They went through that good period, and then the last couple of weeks they've given me confidence again.
Okay, so I lost
just look at it
confidence when they played
with your
the
man
Roosters.
Ches,
Yeah.
Brooksy, Turbo. We keep saying it, but they're big game players.
Yeah.
And they're packed when they're on the front foot. Their pack's good. They've just got that inconsistency in their game. But as we know, you only need that little spark going into the back end of the season,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're on a roll. So
I was just concerned by the Roosters game.
I like watching Manly.
Yeah, so do I. They're entertaining.
I think that's maybe what it is. I like watching them.
Yeah,
because
that
they're
could be it.
entertaining. They've got good players.
When they played the Roosters and the Roosters just blew them off the park in that first 15 minutes, it's like, nah, there's levels to this. The Roosters are like clearly the top three, and Manly, like it's like a top two. Yeah. And then there's a tier. Well, I think there's a tier 1 Penrith, tier 2 clearly Storm, tier 3 clearly Roosters, and then everyone else. Yeah, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, Bulldogs, Manly.
Yeah. Sharks,
Cowboys.
Cowboys. Yeah. They're all in that same bracket. Speaking of that team, Sydney Roosters, your team, they play Parramatta. They're $1.17 favourites. Parramatta are $5 underdogs. The Roosters have had a chance to freshen up after the bye, which is huge. So Dom Young, Lindsay Collins and Nat Butcher are all slated to feature after having a bit of a break last week, or not missing time due to the bye. As for the Eels, they welcome back Micah Sivo, with TALAGI also back in the side after missing a number of weeks with a thumb injury. So Matt Dury dropping out. One-way traffic. Parramatta have been heavy underdogs in the last couple of games, but managed to keep it
last
close.
week. Yeah, it'll be interesting. When you're at the bottom of the ladder, as we know, it's hard to get up week to week. You know, you can have those, you got to find motivation. But obviously their motivation's a new coach coming in. There's not enough motivation just to win. You're playing NRL, but we know as a player in those situations when you know you're not in the finals, it can be hard week to week.
Here's one. I'll throw one at you. I reckon it's easier for them to play the Roosters, for as weird as this sounds for a lot of people, than for them to play the Tigers.
Because they have to get up physically. You don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah, and they just know like the Roosters are a glamour club. They're good players. I always found it easier to get up against the better players, better teams. Yeah. And then just say, for instance, if you're down the bottom of the table, like when I was at Parramatta and we had to play the Titans last round, whether we went and got the spoon or not that year.
Heads in Cavill Avenue.
Yeah. And it was in Cavill Avenue 3 or 4 weeks before.
It is true. I think they got no option, but then they know Roosters are playing for their lives. They got to turn up physically.
Yep.
I love what they did last week, Para.
Yeah, so do I.
And there's the pressure's on the Roosters, isn't it? They're going to
be playing with house money.
They've got to step up big time this week and tidy up their defence. So it'd be interesting if Para can dismantle them this week.
Yeah, I'll go Para with the start in that one. That is plus 17.5 at the tab. All right, the next game up is the Bulldogs versus the Dolphins. This one should be a doozy. Bulldogs have played some really good games the last couple of weeks. This is 3 p.m. at Salter Oval in Bundaberg. Everyone's pretty much back on track with Jamin Salmon. What does that say? James on the so he's making his return. He had a broken jaw actually from that hit that he had with in the Warriors game on Tamate Martin. As for the Dolphins, rookie Lachlan Hubner is set to make for his second NRL match. He will replace Mark Nichols. Wayne Bennett has enjoyed consistency with his team of late. So apart from that, that's the only change. Bulldogs, they're in that tier 4 for me with a number of teams, but probably the most likely to make some noise out of the rest in my opinion. They've just got a really good culture at the moment.
It's that top 2 in defence that they've got. Such an impressive thing that they got going on there.
What a turnaround from last year.
Unbelievable. Serraldo's the man. What a coach. He's coach of the year in my opinion, what he's done there. And Steve Crichton's the captain of the year, so they've got 2 great leaders there. I'm excited to see how the Dogs finish this year. If they can sort of stay where they are on the ladder and then go into these big finals games, I can honestly see them diving deep.
Yep. Well, they need to get 4th position. So
they need things to go their way.
Yeah, they need Cronulla to somehow fall off, and Cronulla have got a good draw to finish off, so they could be reliant. It's more they could just take care of business and see what happens.
Be interesting to see. Yeah, I think just physically, like that defence stat, that'll carry you a long way. And it'd be interesting to see how they handle the pressure for going into finals. I think that's the big thing, how they handle it. They've obviously got a lot of younger players, but they've got out-and-out guys there that are just full of confidence. Crichton's he never loses, does he? We've said that before. Well,
Kicks, Burton and Critter all got Penrith experience. Fox has got Melbourne experience. Connor Tracy... Birdo.
Origin as well.
Yeah. Who in the pack? Who else in the pack? No,
Kurt Mann there's played in some big games.
Yep.
He's undercover there. Yeah. He's been great for him, Kurt Mann.
Yeah. Reid Barney's played in some meaningful games for Parramatta.
And he loves it, doesn't he?
He loves it.
Intimidating.
I don't think intimidating is the word.
Bully.
Frustrating. Frustrating is the word for Reid Barney. He frustrates the shit out of players. So I'm going to go Bulldogs minus the start. I think they continue the trend and they've been good to me the last couple of weeks, so we'll stay on it. 5:30, we have the Cowboys versus the Raiders at Queensland Country Back Stadium. Departing halfback Chad Townsend has been admitted. Therefore, Jake Clifford comes into the number 7. Kulikefu Finifuaki will start the game and Thomas McKaylee joins the bench after Jeremiah Nanai was ruled out. That's a huge one. He had a head knock last week. Raiders emerging playmaker Ethan Strange has a new role this weekend and will line up in the centres. He filled in that role when someone went off on the weekend actually, and they must like what they've seen because they've kept Adam Cook at 5'8". Seb Chris, Jordan Rapps, he's the one. He got ruled out with a concussion. Seb Chris went to the wing. So they've gone with that same lineup this week. Danny Levi and Emre Gula have been added to the bench. So huge game for Cowboys top 4, huge game for Raiders top 8 in this game. It's at North Queensland, so I'm probably going to lean towards North Queensland. Yeah,
I'm going Cowboys for this. They were disappointing last week. I did the game against the Broncos. They sort of let that slip.
Yeah.
They've had that all year though, haven't they? Defensively, in and out of games.
When they have a lapse, they have a bad lapse, eh?
Bad, and leak a lot of points, and you can see it coming. They sort of start to slip, and then it gets really loose for them. I love watching Canberra play. Canberra's one of those sides you just want to see make the 8.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just got a soft spot for them. They're sort of the underdogs up there.
Yeah, that's it. It's
they don't have the sort of benefits that we have in Sydney clubs.
Yep.
I don't know. I love watching Canberra play. They've been a bit up and down lately, to be honest. The last couple of weeks I've watched them. They haven't been playing great footy.
No, they haven't.
Fogarty back's been huge for them though. So if he can find some form, Ethan Strange going to centre's he's been good at 6.
Yeah.
He's been really good for him at 6. Obviously, he can play. I only saw his dad yesterday. He coaches at the Roosters.
Oh, yeah.
The girls' side there.
Yep, and they're going well. And their daughter, Ethan's sister, plays for them as well.
She's in there too. Dad had a good chat. He was actually talking to me about Ethan, that he was a 7 when he was coming through.
Okay.
Because I see him more of as a runner and
same.
Freddie type player, big running game and a good left foot kick as a second fiddle type player. But his dad said to me he played a lot of 7.
Okay.
Coming through. So that's interesting for the future for Canberra, that he can sort of evolve into that role.
Yeah. I see him more of a Munster. He's like a Munster for me.
Yeah,
I think
the same.
Yeah, I think he's more of a 6. He might have just been a 7 because he's the best player in the team and just used to run over everyone and that.
His dad did say that he can sort of play a bit of both. So it's good for Canberra though. They can sort of
for sure. Yeah.
Grow into that.
They got that young kid, Ethan Sanders, coming from Parramatta as well.
Yeah, he's a good kid too.
Yeah, so I think that's the long-term plan for those two.
Yeah. Cowboys, I think, for me, but up there, must win.
Yep, I'm with you. The next game is we have the West Tigers versus the Rabbitohs.
What a game.
This is a tough carry, Drew. When I talk to you about the detail of watching every game throughout a season, and these are ones I don't enjoy as much, mate. I'll probably watch the first half and then have to watch the second half in the morning before I go do radio on Sunday. And both halves are going to be hard to watch. Halfback Aiden Caesar looks set to play despite coming up with a knee injury last week. Other than that, Benji Marshall's side is looking like Luke Laulili returning from a head knock on the wing. Alex Seyfarth has been moved to the starting team. And Sione Fainu added to the bench. Jacob Host is set for an early return from an abdominal strain. Tullis Dunstan is also in for a greater role as he's been promoted to start with Cheekham's calf. Both these teams, for different reasons, are struggling and they played a couple of weeks ago. It was a bit of a score fest. And depending on whether, I don't think defence is a high priority for both these teams at the moment. So
Latrell, when's he back without going into detail?
I don't think he will come back.
He won't come back to the end of the season?
I think even before the incident, I didn't think he was going to come back anyway.
Okay.
Because I don't think there was they're not going to make the 8 and he's coming back from a Liz Frank, I believe.
Yeah.
So therefore, it wouldn't be worth the risk. Like imagine if he re-injured it and then missed the preseason.
Yeah, it's the players. I've been in this situation before when you no chance of making finals and the club's probably not in the best position. Lots of stuff going on in and around it.
Yeah.
You got to find some sort of motivation, and it's a hard position to be in.
Yeah, very hard.
It's a difficult position, and yeah, look, I think from the Tigers' point of view, they just need to find some sort of hope to just give their fans a little bit of just something.
Something. Yeah, I know. I know you're trying to like.
It's hard to just.
They're very hard to preview and review every week because there's not much has changed, and it's the same story. And like, I guess we're very sympathetic because we've been in those positions before, but. Family grew up. If you can't say anything good about someone, then don't overdo it and don't continue to hammer them. And I just don't really have much for the Tigers, really. So I'll go South Sydney -5.5 with the tab, but with no confidence. And above, I'm going the Cowboys, if I forgot to mention that as well. The next game is St George Illawarra versus Gold Coast. We talked about it at length early on. This is Foz's 300, so this will be a huge game for him. And I think the gang will get up around him. I'll give you a stat in a bit too, though, Juju. Young gun Lycan King Togia is in the mix for his NRL debut at 5'8", with Kyle Flanagan suspended. The Dragons are yet to name a replacement with Jack Bird and Tongia leading contenders. Moses Sully and Hame Saleh will miss the game as well. The Fiange twins line up in the centres and Toby Coucher making his return. As for the Titans, big in, I like this guy, Beau Fermor. I reckon you like him as well, Drew. He missed last week. He's back in the team. Brian Kelly is also back. He was a late withdrawal from last week, which seen AJ Brimson go from the centres back to the bench. The Dragons have had a win-loss record from round 9.
Roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster. It's the most. They're the most inconsistently consistent team in the competition.
So they're due for a win.
This is the win.
Yep. Yeah, I'd like to. I'm going for Titans clearly because we've just spoke about KIERAN's 300. I can see the Titans bouncing back.
So can I.
They had a poor performance last week, but there was a statistic I think leading into last week's game that they were they were in form. They'd won more games than any other team in the comp. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In the last 6 or 7 weeks?
That's just my gut feel just because, they had a really good 6 to 7 weeks.
Like it was a 7-week comp. They were on top basically.
Yeah,
so,
gotcha.
They'll be throwing plenty of footy at the Dragons as they always do. They'll obviously compete for KIERAN. He'll be fighting for everything. So they've got a good leader there going into the game. It'll be a great game, I think.
It's a tough game. It's a tough place
Dragons
to play
still
down
got a bit
there
of hope that they can make the finals.
Wynn Stadium on a Sunday afternoon is probably the best time to play, I reckon.
Gets
Wynn
windy
Stadium.
out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, you don't want anything post 5:30, 6, I reckon.
I used to talk about Penrith playing there in the wet.
Yeah.
It was tough playing at Wynn Stadium with the wind there coming off the beach.
I remember there was a game under 20s we played down there. I reckon you would have been a part of it. Yeah. Remember a big guy called Charlie Liano?
Was he a centre?
No, the front rower, the big front rower. He's like huge.
Yeah. Who was the centre they had back then? There was a gunner, I remember.
They had a really good team in the 20s. Like they would have had, I don't know if the Morris boys had moved on or they're still playing 20s.
They would have played the year before.
Jason Nightingale. Yeah. Maybe the first year. Anyway, it was the first year. They were all playing. They were stacked.
Yeah.
And big Charlie Liano ran straight at me off the kickoff, ran straight through. Jimmy gave me 30 seconds. I ran on, come off the bench.
He pulled you off.
He pulled me and I never got back. That's one of my scarring moments from under 20s and specifically Wynn Stadium. I hate.
You don't forget those moments, do you?
You never forget that.
No.
I'll never forget that. I was devastated. Yeah. Anyway, let's go. Gold Coast, come on, Fozzie, get some revenge for me. Get the Dragons. Last game, Sharks versus Knights, Sunday 4 p.m. at PointsBet Stadium. Cronulla are hopeful Braden Trindle will return. He had a hamstring injury, which he missed last week. They were really good without him. Hamlin Uele and Ronaldo Militale, they're probably a little bit further down. Adam O'Brien, he's only got the one change. Dylan Lucas looking like returning from hamstring injury. Therefore, Christian Papalangi will drop out. Jacob Best, Saifidi not returning. They're still a little bit away. Cronulla are $1.36 favourites. Ooh, I think that's too short. I like Newcastle in this game. $3.20 at the tab, and I'll take the 8.5. I think that's one of my better bets of the weekend. I'm going to go both underdogs. I'm going Gold Coast and not. That'll be a sneaky little multi I'll put on at the end of the week.
It's hard to get a read on Newcastle. Obviously, last week they had a decent win against Tigers, but I think Cronulla, I'm going to go against you. I think Cronulla, with the fact that they need a good performance. Well, let's not forget they were top of the ladder till about round 10 or 11. Yeah. So it's still there for them. They've obviously, with Nico out and all the issues that they've had over the last sort of couple of months with players in and out, lack of form. But no, I think Cronulla.
Yep.
Might be a bit of a statement game for Cronulla.
Yeah, true. Well, they made a statement
They
against
did
Gold
last
Coast.
week.
Now they double down, and
They'll be confident off last week's win.
if they win this game in dramatic, like emphatic fashion, just like they did against Gold Coast, then I can see a world in which everyone goes, okay, Cronulla are legit again. We've got Ronaldo Mulatalo and Nico Hines coming back in this team. They're a proper threat.
I think they are.
Yeah, okay. All right, I like it. I've been a little bit down on Cronulla. I'm still...
They were good last week, though, weren't they?
Maybe I'm trying to convince myself. I need to see Sharks win and dominate Newcastle, and then I'll be with you, mate. As for my levels bets friend special for this week, I'm staying with what I know best, and that is Manly 13+ and Hamoli Alakwatu, the big fella. He makes his return. I got him scoring in the first 60 minutes for $5 from the traders at the tap with a max bet of $25. Remember, you can catch that in our levels bets friends channel on the Tab app. As always, we want everyone to be playing safe during the footy season, so please keep front of mind what are you really gambling with. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858. Juju, thank you for coming in again, brother.
Thanks,
it's always a pleasure talking footy with you, mate. I love it. And good to train with you yesterday. We'll do some more training.
I'm still sore, bruv.
Yeah, those Shawnee and Braith Garrod sessions are not for...
We in tomorrow or what?
Yeah, we'll get going. We'll get a session going for sure.
Thanks for having me, brother. It's a pleasure.